Hello, welcome to Sage Speak. Sage Speak is a new show where we chronicle the life and times of some of our living legends who have preached the gospel. Today, our special guest is Dr. Crawford W. Kimble, who's the pastor emeritus of the Good Hope Baptist Church, and we're very proud and excited to have him here today. Pastor Kimble, it's a pleasure to have you here on the program.
Pleasure, my pleasure.
Amen. Well, let's get started right at the beginning. We want to talk about your whole life story. Of course, God has blessed you with great success as a journalist, as a pastor, and as a preacher. And let's go back to where it all began. What was your place of birth?
Elgin, Texas.
Okay.
Yeah. My father was a preacher, a well-known preacher at the time, and he moved from place to place. And so in the course of his moving around, I was born in the Elgin, Texas. Then he was there for a while, and he died in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, years later. But that's where he dropped me off in Elgin, Texas.
How old were you when your pastor passed? Or when your father passed, excuse me.
Oh, let's see. I was a teenager. I can't remember exactly, but he and my mother, they had been separated for many years. But I was a teenager living in Waco at the time. I can't remember exactly how old I was, but I know I was around about 13 years old or something at that time when he passed.
Okay. So you're born in Elgin, and you spent time in Waco coming up as a teenager. Tell us about some of your childhood experiences coming up as a child in Elgin and going to Waco.
Well, in Waco, my mother had 4 boys to raise, and of course she had to get some help from the government. Back in those days, we called it the soup line. Of course, what helped my mother at the time is that my father passed, and he had an insurance. He was doing well. He had another family, but he had an insurance. And one of the local preachers called her and told her that he had passed and that he had insurance. So she got a lawyer. And I think at that time he had $5,000, a lot of money at that time. He had $5,000. And she hired a local lawyer, white lawyer. And he went up to see about it. But luckily, he got the whole 5,000, but he kept half of it. And my mother immediately, we had been renting, so she bought a home right across the street from Tolliver Chapel Baptist Church. That's where I first joined church in Waco at Tolliver Chapel Baptist Church.
Tolliver Chapel Baptist Church.
Yeah.
In Waco, Texas.
Waco, Texas.
Now, what were some of your experiences coming up in church as a young lad?
Well, one of the things that I really remember, well, I was a strange person, even as I look back. My brothers, they scattered around, did things that boys did. You know, they were good boys. But I stayed at home, and my mother had a smokehouse in the back. It was the outhouse back there. And then a little closer to the house was a smokehouse. And she didn't have any meat to smoke. But so that gave me a chance to use that smokehouse for my hideaway. And I got in that smokehouse, and that's where I stayed for the next 2 or 3 years or so, in there teaching myself how to type, how to write, and everybody thought I was crazy. And a lady next, I remember next door, a lady she took in washings, and that was her job. And every day she washed in her backyard, and right close to where she was washing was a smokehouse, and that's where I was. And I could hear her every day talking about me. She said, "That boy's crazy over there." Said, somebody need to go in there and take that boy and let him go on the street like the rest of the person.
Now, how old were you at this time?
At that particular time, see, we going back, man, almost 80-something years. And see, I guess I was a teenager in my teens, 15, 16 years old or something like that. And I spent all my time. As a matter of fact, I enjoyed what I was doing because I've always had a creative mind. Anything that I needed that wasn't given to me, I made it. Made my own toys, made things to entertain myself. I even made radios, little crystal sets. Anything that was creative. That's what I was doing in there. And those were one of some times in my life I cherish because while in there, I discovered journalism in that smokehouse.
Excellent point. Now, you're 93 years old right now.
Yeah.
You were born in what year?
1918.
1918.
Yeah.
And you're 93. You look good for 93. You're still strong, still preaching, still teaching and sharing, and still writing. Now, before we go on to the journalism part, give me some information on you. That name Kimble. That's a very significant name here in Texas.
Well, the name Kimble is not so important to me as the name Crawford. That's a long story too. But my father, when he married my mother, he was educated enough and well known. Well, he was educated enough to figure out that it would be better for me to be named, my first name would be Crawford, because around Waco was a little town named Crawford, where President Bush lives now. And Crawford, Texas is only just a hop, skip, and a jump from Willow Grove, where my grandfather, whose name was Crawford, and he was a slave and the favorite son of his master. And he came to Waco at the time when land was free and not free, cheap. And his master gave him a lot of money to buy land. And he bought up land and organized Willow Grove, Texas. He organized it.
Amazing.
Now, he didn't name it Crawford, he named it Willow Grove, but now down the road there, a few miles, is a city named Crawford. And I've researched that, and I try to link my grandfather to that name, but history, some kind of way, has kept that hidden. I couldn't find it. But the only thing I can say is that my grandfather, when he came with one of his white brothers, and they got a white fella named Crawford. They give him that credit too. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So we just have to live with that. But so my grandfather was a prominent person and very much a great influence in the community. And he was a preacher. That's strange. He was a slave, and he started preaching when he came to Waco. And I just would love to know how that worked, but I never could run that down. But now, what was the question you asked?
Now, you basically grew up attending church. You had preachers in your family background. Now,
Yes.
Tell me this, at what age did you sense, what came first? Did the preaching come first or did the journalism come first?
Oh, now here's the interesting thing. I have to be careful how I say that. I have like most preachers, I can't boast of the fact, and I guess it's a good boast because a lot of people say it, and I'm not critical of it. Most would say that they heard God calling them. That's wonderful. But I've never had that experience. My experience has always been this. I have always known it was in me that God had called me for something. And I always say jokingly that if God had called my name, say Crawford, then I would have still been running. And, I don't know where I would have been. But now I'm trying to answer your question. You asked me again.
I asked you, now what came first? Did the journalism come first?
Oh, I was a preacher. I was a preacher. I knew I was a preacher.
Okay.
But my learning experience came through journalism. Journalism came first. And I gave to, well, then, I went on to school,
Now let's talk about some of the schools you've attended. And
Oh, well, I attended Prairie View to take up, got a little certificate for machine tool operation, so I could miss the Army.
Okay.
And then then I finally went to California with that certificate and worked on Mary Island's ship channel, repairing ships that come in, damaged ships.
Okay. Now, what high school did you attend?
Moore High School.
That's in Waco?
In Waco, Texas.
Okay.
Yeah, then of course, later on, I went to Lincoln University School of Journalism. And I don't know whether I'm getting ahead of you or not, but I'm a dropout from there, from Lincoln, because they accused me of taking the school over. I was arrogant.
They accused you of taking the school over?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, well, how did that come about? Were you
well,
active
they had,
in journalism?
I was a born journalist. I studied journalism from this. And they had two teachers there, female teachers, who had never had any professional journalism experience. And they were teaching me while their head of the journalist, he was still going to school trying to get his doctorate. So they were teaching me. And they knew nothing about journalism. And I was arrogant enough to let them know and whatever. Well, one of the things, and I was editor of the school paper. And then whenever people come there to speak or whatever, they would ask, where is that C. Woody Kimble? That fellow named C, because they've been reading my column in the school paper. And that didn't help me at all, see. And so when I got a chance, later on, make a long story short, when I got a chance to leave there, I got this job in Houston as an editor. Am I getting ahead of you?
No, sir.
As an editor of the Houston chain, of the Informer chain of newspapers.
Okay.
The Informer paper is still a hand of something now, I don't know what it is. But at that time, the Informer chain had papers in several states. And I was an editor. And Carter Wesley was the fellow. He was the owner of it. Oh, he was a terrible fellow. I dropped out from him too, eventually.
So this was a chain of
black newspaper, and I was the editor of it.
Awesome. Yeah. That is awesome. So that's what brought you to Houston.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, how did you wind up joining Good Hope Baptist Church, which at that time was located in the Ford Ward, which were called Freemantown?
Okay. So now, I dropped out from, just like I dropped out from school, I dropped away from that job as being editor. Then I joined a church. I can't even think of the name of church. This church is still operating. Joined the church to become affiliated with the church, because I knew sooner or later I was going to tell somebody, hey, I'm a preacher.
Yes, sir.
So I joined the choir. Can't sing. And so I joined the choir to be active in the church. And so finally, I was regular member, good member. So finally, when it came my time to tell the preacher, I told him, I said, Reverend, I hate to tell you, but I'm called to preach. I'm going to stop singing. He said, well, you can still sing. He said, well, I tell you what I'm going to do, Crawford. I'm going to let you preach Wednesday night. So when Wednesday came, now I did what I know, and I think I do pretty well. Put the words up, a wordsmith. I was a wordsmith. I ain't nothing much now. But I put a sermon together on paper.
Yes, sir.
And he put me up to preach, and I put my head down. Didn't have something to raise my head up. And I read that piece of paper the best I could put it on paper. And I thought I was pretty good. So when it was all over, we went back to the study. I said, Dr. William, Reverend William, I said, I want you to tell me anything you need to tell me so I can be what I ought to be, because I want to be a preacher. And he did a strange thing. He said, Crawford, I can't get this. I don't want to hold you back. Go to Good Hope Baptist Church. I mean, right now, chill bump went off down my spine when I think about that. Why would somebody who came from that church downtown that's still there, what's the name of that black church downtown, historical church downtown?
Antioch.
Antioch.
Yes.
He was out of Antioch. Why didn't he send me to Antioch?
Yes, sir.
He said, go to Good Hope Baptist Church. And I took him at his word. Next Sunday I was there.
And who was the pastor at Good Hope?
A. Lucas, man, who was the man who was head of the NAACP and gave the black folk the right to vote in Texas. He was A. Lucas was a wheel.
Okay.
And he was treasurer of the National Baptist Convention. And then he was on the World Council of Churches. You know, the World Council of Churches, you heard it.
Yes, sir.
He was a member of that. He was a wheel. And so I'm getting ahead of you, I guess.
No, you're right on time.
So
now let me ask you this. What type of church was Good Hope at that time?
It was the church. Now, I don't know I don't know what else I could say.
Yes,
more that's better than the church.
Okay, so it was one of the lead churches at that time.
It was a powerful church. It was a loaded church. It had a great membership, and it was just the church.
Okay, now tell me this. Now, so you're an associate minister. You joined Good Hope. Tell me about some of your experiences as an associate minister.
Oh, boy.
Under Pastor Lucas.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, let me tell you this, man. I joined there. And now, back in those days, most of the older preachers didn't let preachers do much. I don't know. Well, that's just the way it was. They kind of held you back a little bit or something. But I sat there. Now Lucas was the one that told my mama that my father had died and caused my mother to get that money.
Yes.
See, and he knew me, and he knew my mother. And so now when I joined, when I went there, he accepted me immediately because he knew me.
Yes,
Otherwise, he probably, I don't know. And accepted me immediately and let me sit in this pulpit, which is unusual. See, I sat in the pulpit right beside him. And I sat there 8 years. And
how many sermons did you preach as an associate minister in those 8 years?
I'm telling you, I sat there 8 years. I sat there 8 years. And he let me say, I never prayed a prayer, never read a scripture. And he let me say the benediction. Man, boy, I got to a place I could say the benediction and make the hair rise on your head.
So that's all you did within that 8 years?
8 whole years.
Well, see, now that can be encouragement for young preachers today who feel they have to preach
no young
every
preacher
month.
No young preacher would do that today. I don't know how I did it, except that sometimes I'd be sitting up in there crying And he thought I was crying over what he was preaching. But I was crying over, I said, what do I preach? I stuck it out. But now this is another strange thing happened. Yeah, we won't.
You're right on point.
Okay. Now, I sat there 8 years, and the membership saw me sitting there, never missed a Sunday, showing up, saying that benediction. And so one time the president went to the National Baptist Convention, and this time he left the chairman of the deacon board, Jordan, in charge to pick anybody that he wanted to preach in his stead. And so when the membership heard about this, they ganged up on the deacon, say, put that young man up, put him up. And boy, they were forceful too. So they put me up, and so that's when I read one more time what I had written. Never raised up my head. Just kept that reading. And while I was reading that stuff, man, people started crying. And I started crying, reading it. And then I finally got through, and they applauded me. And then they lifted an offering for me. And I can't remember how much it was, but it must have been major, because when Lucas got back, Lucas said, man, no, there has never been an offering lifted for a preacher that strong in my church. He said, what'd you do? I said, I just read what I had. See? And then from then on, wherever he went, he left me in charge. I was the man in charge from then on. And I did all the preaching. Then finally he got sick about 3 or 4 years later. And then he did another strange thing. He said, Crawford said, wherever I be, if it's anywhere you can get there running these meetings, I want you to come and sit beside me in these national meetings that he was in charge of. And I didn't know what I was doing. He said, I want you to sit right beside me. Just sit there. I said, what do I do? Just sit there. So I would sit there, and then he would let me sit there. Then later on, everybody else knew what he was doing. He was letting everybody see the next pastor. Even before he told me, I told them to call me.
That was awesome.
Awesome.
So obviously you displayed great faithfulness, contentment with whatever you was assigned to do by your pastor. You displayed humbleness. And so now, here's the time. There's another transition in your life.
But let me tell you this peculiar. I'm trying to figure out why he jumped to this. I didn't know how to preach. I never pastored. And I didn't know how to, a lot of things I did wrong. But I'm trying to figure out what made him do this. And this is what he told me, and I think it must be true unless he was hallucinating. He said, I was preaching one day, reading. He said, something come over me. These are his words. He said, it looked like you were caught up in something. He couldn't explain it. And then from then on, I think he made up his mind, because of what he saw, whatever he saw in me while I was talking, to make me his successor. So
now, how did you become? What was that process like? Pastor Lucas, he passed, and now the church is looking and have to make a decision on who's going to be the next pastor.
Yeah, well,
how did that process go?
Yeah, well, Lucas, he was going to the hospital, and this is how he set the church up. He knew he wasn't going to live long. Because finally he dropped dead in the pulpit, and I tried to catch him. But before he went to the hospital, he said, if I don't get back, remember my boy. And right now that does something to me. and they did something to the whole church. It shocked them. And then it meant God was speaking to them, because Lucas was a kind of a God to them. That means, hey, we're going to have to do what this man said. I was in. But now, in order to try to make it hard for me to get in, they ran Robert Rowe, who was finally the president. He finally became president of the state convention. Robert Rowe, you remember him?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
They ran Robert Rowe in Austin, ran him against me to try to block me from getting to church over Lucas.
Okay,
desire.
so he had a national position.
He had a national position, and they ran him against me.
And this is who you're up against in the vote.
That's who I'm up against. And Rowe got 24 votes. I got 900 and something that showed up.
My goodness.
Boy,
You got 900 votes, you got 24 votes.
The 900 that showed up.
Now, how did the transition come over? Because Lucas, from what I hear, he was a very awesome preacher. And he was respected across this country. And now here you come, the associate preacher, new pastor, who reads his messages from the manuscript. How did that transition take place?
Well, I was living mostly on the demand coming from Lucas to remember me. But it became real difficult for me to follow him. Oh yeah, he's coming to me now. No preacher in Houston thought I deserved the church, rightly so. No preacher.
Because Good Hope was the church.
What if they would have left that church? Yeah, that was the church, man. They said, "What that man doing? What was he doing? The boy don't know how to do anything," and I really didn't. I made a lot of errors, and so I'm losing my train of thought. You said,
well, let me ask you this now. Now, after you was elected as pastor, what was some of the high points or some of the struggles dealing with the transition for the members from going?
Oh yeah, okay. I think I got you now. The enemies took advantage of the fact that I didn't know what I was doing, and really, I didn't know what I was doing, because I made mistake number one when I first took church over. They asked me, said, "Well, enemy, what's your program?" So they could get me right away, because they know I have no program. And I said, "Well, give me 9 months. I don't know where the 9 months came from, except baby's born and 9 months born, where I can figure that out." I said, "Give me 9 months and I'll give you my program." So after 9 months, here they come. "Okay, 9 months up, what's your program?" I said, "Well, we're going to move this church." Lord have mercy. Stupid.
Okay, that's very important. Now, at that time, this particular church, New Good Hope, was located in the Fort Worth.
Children were born there. They died there.
Very strong historical
The building was a Gothic building, man. It was still strong, and people were happy coming there and all that sort of coming to that church. And I'm saying, we're gonna move it. And then since I said it, well, I guess I said it because that's what happened. But anyway.
So you make the historical move.
But now let me tell you this. They didn't want to move. They didn't want to pay for the building. And they tried this every way they could to get people to get the community and the preachers to fight against me. And they did that job, see. But the amazing thing is, I hope I'm not getting ahead of you, is that I figured out a way, but God did it. I started a movement in the church where if you were a leader, then you must support the church if you're going to, stand up and lead and want the privilege to talk and lead in the church. Because some of the people who were leading were fighting me. I'm saying, well, if you're going to want the right to stand up in the church and lead, you got to pay your tithe. I said, now I'm going to pay mine. I started paying my tithe. And these people who want to fight me, they decided, well, we got to pay our tithes too, see, in order to have a right to speak. And they put up a good fight. But in the meantime, they didn't want to move, didn't want to build, but we finally after 2 years, when I was finally put the building up, they gave $1 million. Back in those days, I couldn't borrow no money. They gave $1 million. I put that church up cash, man.
Awesome.
And saved $1 million because I built it myself.
Awesome.
I had some Mexicans and built that church myself. And during the time when the steel was standing up there, but that's another long story. I studied the diagram. Never built anything before in my life. Never even built a doghouse or nothing. And when the time came, and the man who said he was going to build a church for he lied, $500,000. He died on Saturday before he was supposed to start back to work. So I said, well, I'm going to do another stupid thing. I'm going to tell the folk that we're going to operate out of that man's office. And I hired some Mexicans. I said, don't tell the people that I'm the builder, that you're going to operate out of your office. Billy Day, out of his office. And we started working. So the main fellow, Deacon, who was against me, he was the one didn't want to know that I was doing this. And he got sick one day, and he died. And I buried him. And I said some nice things about him, as I always do about everybody. And then I told the people also, I said, well, I want to tell you all the truth. I'm the sole builder of this church, and I want you to forgive me for not telling you the truth. And of course, a lot of them didn't like it. But then I wasn't afraid to tell them that I built that church. And then 2.5 years we worked. I never was sick, never was tired, never missed a day. In 2.5 years, they gave her over $1 million.
Awesome, awesome, very supportive.
And put that church up.
They were very. Now let's go back. Let's go back for a minute. Now you're the new pastor. They ask you, well, what's your vision for the church? And you tell them wait 9 months. And after 9 months, they say, well, okay, what is the vision? Now you tell them we're going to move the church. Now let me ask you this. Why move from the 4th ward to the 3rd ward?
That's one of my crazy ideas. Yeah.
What was the appeal about the 3rd ward?
The appeal was I saw something that they didn't see, and then what I saw, but it has to be spiritual because it has come to pass. Fourth ward is dead now. I guess you know that. See, as so far as it was back in those days, I knew that the 4th ward had lost its strut. And I don't know how I knew it, except that the Lord just gave it to me, and that's what happened. And see, at that particular time, it looked like it was crazy, but now it doesn't. You know how many churches are left in the 4th ward now?
How many?
You know how many churches are left in the 4th?
How many?
Maybe about two or three. I know 2 that's doing well enough to hang on, but I don't know how long they can hang. But other than that, I can't think of any more.
So now that turned out to be an awesome move, moving the church over on right off of McGregor.
Yeah, to Sugar Hill.
Over in the third ward. That was an awesome move. Now let me ask you this: as far as the building, did you encounter any problems or obstacles during that process of building that building?
Yeah, well, see, we were trying to raise the money to pay for it ourselves, and I had it all mapped out. But the one thing that hurt my plan was the price of steel went up, and the architect had made an error in estimating the cost. The builder had made an error in estimating the cost. And then when the price of steel went up, then that added another $500,000. It added another, a bunch of money to the cost. And then the steel had to sit there until I could figure out how to, get started.
How long did it sit?
5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
Well, where did y'all worship during this time?
Oh, we worshiping in our old building.
Building for
It wasn't nothing wrong. If they were happy there, they were doing, but the building was holding up. It was a good place to worship.
Okay, 5 years pass by, you get the building up. And
No, the steel set up 5 years, and after finally, when we started building, it took me 2.5 years to build it.
Okay.
Yeah, I planned it. I said, we're going to put it up in 2.5 years. Now, at the end of 2.5 years, we lacked another, just a measly $150,000 to go in. So I approached the people one day. I said, that's another story how I got the money. But anyway, a lady gave me some silver dollars. She just being nice. And over the years, she gave me, I visited her, she gave me a silver dollar. So I had a whole bunch of silver dollars. And a fella in Dallas had a scam. He was running for silver dollars. And I sold my silver dollars to him. It was a scam. He was working. He gave me $10,000 for my silver dollars. So I told the people, I said, I'm gonna loan the church $10,000. We need $150,000. I'm gonna loan the church so we can go in. That's all we need to start going in. And everybody looking at each other. I said, I'm gonna be the first person to give. I'm already a big tither and giver. I'm gonna loan the church $10,000. So some lady back there, I think she'd been a member of the church maybe less than 6 months or so. Nobody hardly knew her. She said, Brother Pastor, I let you have 10. Nobody looked around and said, who is that woman?
Yes.
And then from then on, man, I left that day with $150,000. Here come a deacon.
Awesome.
Brother Pastor, you need more than 10? I said, 10 is enough from you, brother. And I left there with over $150,000 to finish up. Oh, that was a strange thing, man. Anyway. Now, what else you want?
Now, what was some of the, of course, now, Good Hope is still one of the lead churches in the city. And at that time, you moved into a new building. Tell me something about the ministries. You were somewhat ahead of your time for the organizational structure of your ministries. I mean, you had an orchestra back at that time. You had praise dancers before it was really popular. What are some of the other things you did ministerial-wise?
Well, to name a few, I had I think about 12 or 13 piece orchestra, and the music minister at the college, TSU, he brought over his students, and they played in some that he chose, and some I chose, and I gave him a little salary, and then I gave each of the students who came $1,000 a year So we help them on their tuition every year. And so I could have the first black orchestra that I know of. Some people had some instruments, stuff like that. But I don't remember any other church having a 12 or 13-piece orchestra. And then see what else I had. I had a praise dancer, and I didn't call it a dance. I was scared to use the word dance, but I called it a praise team anyway. I had them to dress up and to do some things, movements, but not like they're doing today. It had to be clean. It was clean.
Okay. All right.
As a matter of fact, they come out dressed like angels or something,
Yes.
and do something, and we call them praise. It was a praise team. I had that. And now the thing I'm most proud of that I had a street ministry that I was proud of that went out on the streets and brought children and marched them in every Sunday morning. And we wash their faces, put some clothes on them, comb their hair, feed them, and sit them right in the middle of these old sisters so they can mingle with them.
Yes.
That idea came to me. A white church, First Baptist, I think it's First Baptist, second, but anyway, they were coming to our neighborhood, loading up our children, taking them to their churches, put them in the basement, feed them and everything, and then send them back home. I guess they were doing what they call a Christian thing, but they weren't making Christians out of it. They weren't telling them anything about God in that setting. So I said that what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop that bunch from going. I'm going to pick them up myself. And I started bringing them in and put them together, mingling with our people. And it worked pretty well, but that was a hard job because they were kids, hard to manage, and the sisters didn't love them. But some sisters hit them. If it wouldn't be, one sister, bam, hit him back again, and he cried, they want me back there, hit me.
While church going on.
While church going on. Then I stopped that,
Yes.
and try to figure out how to handle that. Anyway, but it wasn't easy, but fine, it worked all right. But the Lord blessed our efforts.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you reached out to underprivileged kids, but you also had a lot of some famous people part of your congregation. We talk about some of those that you pastored?
The right for black to vote in Texas, came out of good old Methodist Baptist Church, which the pastor being head of the NAACP. And Dr. Ellie Smith was I think you call him the plaintiff. He was the one that sued. I think the word is plaintiff, I don't know. He's the one that sued the government to get the right for us to vote in Texas. And he won, Dr. Ellie Smith. He was a wheel in our church. He was chairman of the finance committee. And he was just a noted person for what he had done. He didn't like me, see. And I'm going to tell you one thing I did for him to show you how I managed all these people who didn't like me. When I was called to the church, he stopped coming inside, stayed in the finance room. And I just knew he did for years. I said, he needed to know something that's happened out there. So I went back there and put a loudspeaker back there in the office where he was. And I went to him and told him, I said, Dr. Smith, I said, now maybe some of these times you might want to hear an announcement or something. There's a loudspeaker on that wall up there. You can switch it on and you can switch it off. to your whatever you to your liking. And I don't know whether he ever turned it on or not, but he got sick. And finally, when the people started visiting him, the first thing he said, when I come back to the church, I'm going to come in and ask for forgiveness. Never to get back.
Amazing.
Now, here's another strange thing that happened. When he died, I got sick. I preached every funeral. I mean, I preached all the bad folks' funerals. I always found something good to say about them, because everybody has done something good in their lives. And I've always had, and I was noted for preaching, for being a eulogist, because I could go into a person's life,
Yes.
and dissect his life and find something good and stuff like that. But now people, when Dr. Smith died, I guess everybody wondered, what old Kimble gonna say about Smith? I got sick, and I had never been sick before. The only thing I can figure out, I wasn't supposed to preach his funeral, so I called one of my preachers in, let him preach it. And I thought that was very strange. Well, the Lord, I guess the Lord, well, I better leave that alone. But I didn't get a chance to tell no lie that day. So.
Okay. Well, what were some of the other famous people you've
Oh,
passed?
well, Barbara Jordan. Barbara Jordan, we left the first offering that she, to help her run for office, Barbara Jordan. And I got a chance to go around with her when she was on a lot of different places. She let me say the benediction. And, she was, Lyndon Johnson was her protege, was her mentor, or was a fella that was sponsoring her, really. I got a chance to meet him. And the funny thing about it, while I was praying that little prayer, I don't know why he got it mixed up. He thought I was preaching. He said, Reverend, that sure was a good sermon. I don't know how he got that mixed up. Anyway, that's the only time I got a chance to speak to him. But she did his bidding. And I'm going to tell you the person, I'm going to give her credit, and she gives me credit for giving her credit. This girl is in there now. What's her name? That's running, that's our Congress lady, Sheila.
Sheila Jackson Lee?
Sheila Jackson Lee. Sheila is her own boss. And she is really she is the best we have had in office. I know all those fellas. And she's doing a good job. And she did a much better job than Barbara did. And I understand that too, because that was early on, and Barbara had to follow those who put her in and was keeping her in. See?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, are there any others that stand out?
Well, let's see. Am I missing any that you might know about or what?
No, sir. No, sir.
Let's see.
Well, let me ask you this now. Out of this whole experience you've had, and this unique walk that God has given you in your lifetime, you've written some books out of these experiences. What was the first book you wrote?
I believe the first book I wrote was, I've written so many. I've written about 15 books or so. The first book was Watch the Tree, It Might Fall on You. That book is all over the place.
And that's my favorite.
Yeah.
Out of all of them.
Yeah, well, it's everybody's favorite, really.
Yes, sir.
When I was going around to conventions, selling books, and it got to be all over the country. And I received word from people from everywhere, from preachers who had trouble building, putting their building up, and things stopping them, how to deal with people and things stopping them. and how it helped them to get past that obstacle. Yeah,
Now, I think now that's my favorite. I think probably one of your biggest books is the Love Book. Can you talk to us about the Love Book?
Well, that's all I talk about. Every time I get up, I talk about love. And I'll be talking about it until the master called me in. And that's the reason why we're going to talk about, I guess we'll talk about that later on, why I organized the National Council of Love. I think we're going to talk about that. But see, you're taking a chance now by asking me to talk about this, because
there's a statement
I get in a preaching,
written.
I get in a preaching mode.
There's a statement, a theme written.
Yeah.
You can tell us what that theme is about sacrifice.
Well, it's right here, right here. It took me a long time to. You can see it there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It took me a long time to put this into words that I think says exactly what I want said. And it says, words to live by. And these are the words. The defining act of love is revealed solely in the rituals of sacrifice. Oh, man,
Tell us about that, Doc.
You don't want me to start preaching.
I want you to start preaching.
No,
I don't want you to start preaching.
What defines love? You talk. I'm gonna tell you. You know why people don't talk about love? Because they really probably don't know what defines love, and the reason why they don't know what defines love, it might be that they don't have that love of God in them. If you got the love of God in you, you ought to know what defines love. Now, in case you don't know what defines love, let me tell you what defines love. And the only, see, I'm getting excited.
Get excited.
And the only thing that can define love is sacrifice.
Sacrifice. Wow, a profound statement.
Yeah, it
profound
is.
statement. And that's exactly what.
And then, now, if you're not willing to sacrifice, you ought to get you another job. You ought to go find something else.
Yes.
Go try to be a rich man where you can just take money from people and rob them and all that kind of stuff. Go do something else. But if you want to define what love is, you got to wake up in the morning figuring out, what can I do today to give of myself? To give of myself. To sacrifice myself. What can I do today to sacrifice? This is what it calls for. What can I do to sacrifice myself? And then when the day is over, then you say, Lord, I thank you for letting me accomplish this sacrifice, this ritual. Let me accomplish this ritual this day. And you get up in the morning and start all over again. Lord, what can I do? All
Awesome.
over. Every
Awesome.
day.
And what it does, it brings increase.
Yeah.
You really don't lose when you're sacrificing.
What are you talking about? Yeah.
Because the more you give, the more God is going to give back to you.
Yeah. That's
and isn't that what His Son did for us on the cross?
Oh, man.
God gave His Son. The Son gave His life.
Yeah.
That we might be restored unto the Father.
Yeah.
And when we follow that way of sacrifice and love.
Yeah. Now let me say this: you're doing a good job. I think you almost are convinced yourself. Amen. Now, what Jesus did, he wrapped himself in human flesh.
Yes.
See, in order to be the illustration and our mentor, or to show us that what he's asking us to do can be done in the flesh. You see?
Yes, sir. Yes,
So,
sir.
what did he do in the flesh? Or what he asked us to do in the flesh? He asked us, if a man slap you on one cheek, do the other.
Okay.
Let me ask you, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir. Ask me a question.
No, I'm not going to ask you. Let me do this. Do you know anybody who has turned the other cheek? I mean, people that you know who have turned. I know some people say,
Ain't much cheek turning in this day.
ain't no cheek turning in this business.
But you made a statement
Yeah.
that what I felt was profound about that particular scripture. You said that there's power in
the other cheek.
Yes, sir.
I got a sermon on that.
Elaborate on that for us.
Well, right now, I can't put it in the words I want to. I'm not sharp as I want to be. See what you're doing? You're trying to get me to be as sharp as I used to be. I ain't as sharp as I used to be. And I don't want to try to do what I used to do when I know I can't do what I used to do.
Okay, all right.
But that's what you asked me to do now.
I asked you to elaborate on that statement you made when you say there's power in
Power.
the other cheek.
Yeah, there's power in the other cheek, but nobody turned the other cheek. But there's power in the other cheek.
Do that mean that you trust in God?
Yeah. You got
to do what He said He's going to do.
He told you to turn the other cheek, so why don't you turn it? Because He told you to turn. He wouldn't tell you to do anything that would take from you the victory that is yours. See? So if He tells you to turn the other cheek, turn it. Now I'm going to say what He did. He showed us that we could do that. So what he did in the flesh, they slapped Him. See?
Yes, sir.
And
yes, sir.
He not only turned the other cheek, He turned His whole body over to them. He said, go and told you to go ahead and do what you got to do. Do it quickly. Yeah. Turned His body over to them. And this man who they slapped, and he turned his whole body over, he let them put him. See, now we get into the clothes. Now it's going to be some hooping that's going on in a minute. Get into the clothes. Amen. So now he let them put him in the grave, bury him. And they took him. I forget how that thing. Did you ever hear me say that?
He died?
No, that's not it. But anyway, we leave it alone.
Well, let me ask you this. Now, we're talking about love, and you made this profound statement. The defining act of love is revealed solely in the ritual of sacrifice. Would you say that defines your life? That you, all of these years, the Lord has blessed you the way He has, because
I'm going to tell you what. Yeah, it defined my life. I live by that thing, and I do believe. I'm going to tell you this. Here's another strange thing. I'm slow. My memory's not good. I remember what the Lord wants me to remember, I guess. And a lot of things wrong with my body that I won't go to the doctor to let him tell me what it is so he can send me to home to die. And so therefore I haven't been to the doctor in 30 years. And anybody listening to me, don't do what I do. You go to your doctor. Yeah. But
now, Pastor,
okay. But let me say this. I have never felt better in my life.
For 93 years old, you're looking real good.
Hey, this is my clothes. I feel good like I knew I would.
Okay, well, look, we got to wrap it up. But now you've started something called the National Council of Love.
Yeah.
Can you, in 20 seconds, tell us what this is all about?
Well, the National Council of Love is something that I found it in all of my assets, everything I own, is going to be put in the National Council of Love, so it will survive my demise. It'll be money in there for them to have at least an annual meeting again, like we first started. And so it's a beautiful thing. And I'm lining up preachers now to take it over. I'm going to give it over to them. I'm going to be going around in my wheelchair or whatever, watching them work. And that's what it's all about.
Thank you, Pastor
God
Prophet Kimble.
God bless.
And this is Archie Sutton, your host today, and we've had a wonderful time talking with
I want to thank this brother.
Legendary
Thank
Pastor
this brother. God
Prophet
bless
W. Kimble,
Yeah.
and we certainly enjoyed chronicling his story on today. And if you want more information about the National Council of Love, the information will be shown on the screen. And we want to thank you once again,
Yeah.
and we thank you for being with us. And as we sign out, let's just everybody just say, thank the Lord.
God bless. God
Amen.
bless.